Time to preview Bedlam. Cowboys and Sooners getting together here in Stillwater on Saturday. You said earlier in the week you think Oklahoma quarterback Jalen Hurts is basically a triple option quarterback. Why do you say that?
Well, if you look at the numbers, when I was watching tape early in the week, and it just kept going through my mind, and then I started to look, and so I said, I'm going to look at the statistics. So I started pulling out the statistics, and he's carried the ball 180 times. I thought, golly, that's a lot. And then I watched their schemes, and they're in some spread, and they're in some one tight and some two tight. It's basically triple options, what it is, from a different formation, okay? And then I started comparing numbers of him. I just went back and took some option quarterbacks and compared numbers, and he's got more carries than any of them. And the quarterback at Army, which is a triple option team, has 129 carries this year. So you start looking at their concepts, then you start looking at the number of carries, and they're getting equal numbers with him rushing the ball, essentially triple option or double option, 180 times with some scrambles in there. Then he's thrown the ball to 269, I think. So when you look at it, he's had the outcome of a play either rushing it or throwing it or scrambling 450 times this year. So he's a pretty important part of what they do. And you have to give it to him. He's been durable. He's taken a lot of hits, hit after hit after hit after hit after hit, and he's still in there. So they've got some guys around him. They can play. You know, the wideouts can play, the running backs, but he's the guy. You got to stop him.
Yeah, so given the uniqueness of his skill set and what he's done, how unique is the challenge for you defensively? Have you really seen anybody that is like this, or would you compare them to anybody?
You know, the numbers game gets pretty simple. You know, if there's 3 eligible receivers, you got to cover them with, 4, maybe 5, 3 over 2 or 2 over 1, or if you're going to play man, 2 over 2 and 1 over 1, then you get extra guys in the box. I mean, we all know the numbers game. So teams are mixing it up, trying to disguise one thing or the other. In the end, just about everything they do goes through him. Okay? Now, people say, well, yeah, sure, he gets every snap. Well, that's different if you're in an offense where you're handing it off, which was like Wisconsin. Okay, the running back they have, he's going to get a handoff in a kind of a heavy set most of the time. So that's a different style of play. The spread stuff and what they're doing is he's pretty much a one-man show. The Lamb's a good player. The wideout, he's only got 52 catches. Tylen had 53 catches. He hadn't played in a month. That gives you an example of how much they're using the quarterback. And then I think they've got a running back that's got maybe 50 carries or something. So we got to find a way to tackle and get those guys down, particularly the quarterback.
Offensively, your play volume has been down, and that's been planned. I think it's 62 plays per game the last 4 games. It was close to 80 the first half of the year. This has the potential, though, to be a high-scoring game. So, a couple of things. Number one, are possessions even more valuable in a game like this? And do you feel like you can win this game with only 60 plays? Is that a realistic thing?
We have to control what we can control in all phases. Whatever our strengths are, we have to build a plan in all 3 phases to try to attack the other team with our strengths. There's a lot that goes into possessions, punting, field goals. How many points do you think you can score? But they've got 11 games on us, and we've got 11 games on them. So there's a lot scheming going on from both sides. In the end, whatever we think is best for us, we have to lay that out in the game plan, because we really can't control what they do. We don't know what they're doing. We only know what we can do. So those are the way that's the way we take that part of those aspects in the game into account, is what do we think our strengths are.
Bedlam 2019 coming up in Stillwater, and next to come, the Showdown Breakdown with Brandon Weeden.
The end of the practice is when we do all of our intensity drills. She was going at it.
Stop. Right there. There we go.
If we win this, is the one way to get to the playoffs.
I know.
That's crisp.
Crisp taste, brewed with no corn syrup. Bud Light.
ADM milling is really a part of the fabric of the Enid community. So if we were to have lost them, it would have been more than the 70 jobs that they employ.
OG&E, the City of Enid, and the Enid Regional Development Alliance were all great to work with. Not only does it allow for the growth of the new mill, but also the power is there to make that happen for the future.
It's the Bedlam Showdown Breakdown with Cowboy quarterback Brandon Weeden. And let's first start with the West Virginia game. Drew Brown wins in his first Oklahoma State start. What did you like about his performance in that game?
I think he did everything you asked him to do as a backup quarterback. He came in, he managed it, he took care of the football, and he got a big road win. And you go into West Virginia, it's not the easiest place to play. So I think they got to be extremely pleased with the way he handled the situation, handled the environment. He got everybody involved, the run game. I think Chuba did some really good things in the passing game, which I think is a huge asset for him. But overall, they've got to be tickled to death the way he handled that situation. Again, going on the road and making your first start as a Cowboy.
In fact, it'd been 2 years basically since Drew Brown has started a game. So he has that good performance. Oklahoma State wins on the road. The fact that now the team has experienced a win with him, how's that affect the mindset going into Bedlam? What does it matter?
I think so. You know, you can tell the team's really rallied around him. You know, the offensive line, the receivers, everybody's kind of bought in. The good thing is he's played a lot of football. You know, maybe he hadn't played in a rivalry like this, but he shouldn't be over his head a little bit. I think he can come in to this stadium and in front of the home crowd. We've kind of talked about that. Is fortunately we're here in front of this home crowd. We can start fast and he can get going early. It should be a lot of fun for him. I think he can come out and maybe hopefully surprise some people.
Oklahoma's quarterback Jalen has had a fantastic year running it and throwing it. What's the best answer for him?
He's tough. He had 28 carries last week, 25 the week before. If I'm defending him, one, I think you got to be very specific on how you rush him. You can't run past him. You got to be able to stay in his lanes. If he's at 8 yards, don't run to 10 yards because now you're taking yourself out of the play and he can step up and do what he does. But if it's me, and I don't know how many teams have done this, with a guy like Malcolm Rodriguez, maybe spy him. Don't let him take off and run. Because if his first read's not there, the first thing he does is look to get out of the pocket and extend plays, and that's where all of his explosive plays come from. So for him, I think you got to keep him in the pocket, make him beat you from the pocket. You got to rush him right, but you got to stop him in the run game. He's a huge part of what they want to do in the run game.
Do you see any vulnerabilities in Oklahoma's defense, which is better than it was a year ago?
They're better. I still think that secondary is struggling. And I think if you can protect them up front and give Drew Brown some time, I think if you can put those guys in conflict with route patterns, maybe high-low stuff or level-type patterns, their safeties really do kind of struggle in coverage. And I think that's definitely the weak link of their defense. They know that. They're trying to protect them in some ways. They do some things schematically. But I also think if Drew Brown can have time, there's a lot of big plays to be made down the field.
So with that thought in mind, you look at the last 4 games, Oklahoma State's only averaged around 62 snaps per game on offense. The first half of the year, it was probably in the neighborhood of 78 to 80. Can you score enough points against Oklahoma playing slow? Can you do it?
I think you can. You have to have a great plan because, again, one, you're keeping their offense off the field, which is a pretty explosive offense. That's the first and foremost. But kind of like we said last week, you got to be extremely cautious, and you got to be opportunistic when you do get a chance, especially in the red zone. You got to go score touchdowns, and you can't kick a lot of field goals against teams like this. So I think you can. The nice thing about Oklahoma State's offense is if they want to go fast, they have the ability to do so. They don't have to slow it down. They can play as fast as they want to, but it's a luxury to be able to step back and kind of, again, keep the defense off the field, keep that offense off the field as long as you're scoring touchdowns.
Oklahoma State with 4 straight wins going into Bedlam, and with the 8th win in Morgantown, West Virginia, Oklahoma State became just the 4th Big 12 team in the last 10 years to start 4 or fewer seniors and win 8 or more games. They'll go for 9 on Saturday. That's the Showdown Breakdown. Thanks for watching.